Excellent. Well, there you go. I feel a clash coming up because my next choice, I think you've got as well.
Yes, I think so. Which it was going to be further down the line for me, but let's get it out of the way now, shall we?
Okay, yep. This is Iron Maiden, Dance of Death.
And it's so good that
we both got a copy of it.
We were both living in the same house when it came out, yet we still got 2 copies of it.
2003, this one. You probably all know that. And if you heard our rant on The Final Frontier, you probably heard a lot about this album.
Yes, absolutely.
This is the album that got me into metal properly. Well, that's a bit of a question, an ambiguous question, that one, because there were 2 albums, if you remember, out at the time when we were kind of getting into metal. One was an album called St. Anger, and the other one was this. So I kind of attribute the fact that Dance of Death was so good and St. Anger was, St. Anger, to my continued just branching down the power metal, folk metal route, and not ending up listening to
towards the kind of
hardcore, yeah.
more straight-laced metal. Yeah, I remember that. We made the choice. It was, do we get St. Anger or do we get Dance of Death?
Because we got St. Anger.
And we bought St. Anger. And we listened to it. And I don't get me wrong, I actually don't mind St. Anger. I think it's an alright album. As we said before, maybe not the Metallica album we were expecting. But anyway, by the by, we went back, we got Dance of Death, and it's a cracking Maiden album.
Yeah, talking about intrinsic links again, as I've probably mentioned on the Final Frontier, this has linked me to a good coin book called Wizard's First Rule. Actually, interestingly, the second book in that, they talk about like a sort of fighting move called the Dance of Death, so it's like doubly intrinsically linked.
So yeah, so it goes backwards and forwards. But yeah, this is for me, it's a cracking selection of proper Maiden songs. I mean, we talked not trying to back up what we talked about before, but we talked about that group of 4 albums that was very much the new Maiden, and I think for me this is the best of the new Maiden.
Yeah, I would agree totally. It just, the whole thing feels so epic. There's a real kind of storytelling feel to it. Favourite track on there is probably Journeyman, which was my favourite song for a long time.
You religiously loved Journeyman for quite a while, didn't you?
Well, I know it's an acoustic song, but it just sounds so good, so epic.
Well, I was connected with Passchendaele because I went to Passchendaele a few years back and saw where the battle was fought. So, and I'm sure many people have done the same. So I almost had a connection with that straight away, I think. But no, I think it's a cracking album. But and certainly for me as well, I felt great. It was my first Maiden album that I listened to and really enjoyed. It
was quite a nice nostalgic buzz that this year's Sonosphere went back to the whole them playing, well, not just this album, but that era, and hearing these songs live for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely, because we missed it. We didn't go on this tour when it first came out, and obviously they've been and done early years and new albums since then.
Yeah, so it was kind of like, in a way, it was our Somewhere Back in Time tour.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Whether the next live one next year will be like that or not, I don't know.
I'd like to think there would still be smattering and modern stuff, although I do suspect they'll probably play the Final Frontier in its entirety.
So, what's that going to be in your list of...
for me, it's kind of a toss-up. It was going to be a bit further down, but for reasons I'll explain shortly.
Okay, well, I think we've covered our main Dance of Death, so over to you, sir.
Well, mine next one is maybe a wee bit of a guilty pleasure. It's Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory. This, I've owned this ever since it came out. I've only listened to it from about 2 years after it came out. Because all the time I was living away in Reading, this sat on my shelf, and I never listened to it. And one time I did put it on, I was like, it's too heavy for me. It's too heavy for me. And the tragedy is, it's a banging album. I mean, say what you like about new metal, say what you like about Linkin Park. Certainly with the latter albums, I think they toned themselves down a bit. This is a banging album. I still think it's a banging album. It's not all of it, not every track. There's some dross on there. There's some confusion where they get lost and it goes a bit too much down the rap path, dance path, or whatever you want to say. But anyway, this is a great album. And again, I connected with my friends. We all like Linkin Park. We went to see them. In fact, one of the best weekends of gigging I had in the early days was we went to Birmingham on the Friday night. We saw Marilyn Manson, and on the Saturday night we saw Linkin Park, and it was great. We had a great weekend. We had a great night out in between as well. And no, it's just, I think it's a really cracking album. And for me, it was that progression into heavier music. It was, you stop listening to pop, the normal radio stations and the pop fluff that's on there, and you start branching up with something that's a bit more exciting. And this has definitely pushed me down the path towards proper metal, if you will. Even though in itself, you can argue what you like, but I still think it's a cracking album.
Do you have a favourite track on it, or?
Well, I think all the singles. I'm such a whore when it comes to this, but I think Crawling probably. But there's a couple of really banging songs on there. Most of, let's be honest, they're a corporate band, most of which they released as singles.
To be fair, it's a lot like Limp Bizkit or Korn or any of those, which is you kind of stand up the flag and say it's not proper metal, blah blah, sell out. But the actual musicianship, I think, is very good.
Well, this is the
songs
thing.
are very good.
If you enjoy listening to it, and I must admit, recently, this weekend on Saturday, I bought the Linkin Park live at Milton Keynes, effectively because it was cheap. But it's a banging album. It's one of the better live albums I've heard. And I'm not a huge fan of live albums. I'd rather see a band live or hear a studio album. But it's a good live album, and these songs from this album sound great on it.
Cool. So moving back to me.
Yes.
We're moving now to middle of my university years. There's a couple of albums I could mention at this point. I mean, there was the first Sonic Firestorm by Dragon Force. That was quite an important album for me.
Yes. That was the first, maybe extreme,
yeah. Less kind of mainstreamy metal.
Yeah.
At the time, that was quite big. And there was the Rhapsody stuff, which I was getting into at that time, Hammer 4. But what I picked of that period was, in fact, this one here, which is Blind Guardian, Imaginations from the Other Side, from 1995.
I'd have been very disappointed if you hadn't picked the Blind Guardian in your top 5, in your 5, to be honest.
As I say, that period of time I was discovering new bands all the time, and Blind Guardian, I'm not really sure how I ended up discovering Blind Guardian, but I was like, whoa, this is big. And being the acoustic whore I am, I had a choice, which was to buy the album that had the Bard song on, or buy the album that had Part of the Future Secret on. So I did pick up Somewhere Far Beyond, and I actually picked up this, which I'm actually quite glad about, because this it's still my favourite Blind Guardian album. I mean, I know they had some good new ones. Twisted the Myth was good. Of course, Somewhere Over Time, new one.
The new one's a cracking
It's a good album. This is still my favourite. I mean, the whole thing, it has a very Arthurian feel to me, which is odd because only a few of the songs have any Arthurian concept. There's a lot of different lyrical themes. Apparently it's maybe a darker album. But this whole thing feels so medieval, and they still play a lot of good songs live. It was just the perfect album for me at the time. And again, with these intrinsic links, I used to be in Derby University Archery Club, so by chance any Derby University Archery Club members listening to this, big shout out to you.
Yes.
But we went to an outdoor shoot, and I was on a bus rolling through the Derby.
Sorry, you used to shoot indoors?
Yeah,
that's got to be dangerous, surely.
Yeah, we used to shoot indoors in the gym. We had like a big canvas screen, and occasionally it used to go through that anyway, and used to hit the back wall and leave like holes.
Right. Okay. So if you're walking through Derby, just don't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether it still exists or not, the club, but right. Anyway. So we were riding through the hills on this bus, and I was listening to this all the way through, and by that epic music and that epic scenery, that's kind of like a moment that stuck with me.
Okay.
Favourite track probably got to be Past and Future Secret, which just proves how much of an acoustic whore I am, really.
Oh, it's a good song. Don't you find? I mean, the new Guardian is really complicated. They obviously use many layers, and on the new album, many instruments. But don't you find that one's nicer because it's a little bit more simple?
It is. This was the last album that Hansi played bass on, as well as sing. Okay. Which was so they were more of a band rather than branching out to kind of. They're still a band, but they got the kind of more and more epic. And everyone, My Formula was kind of in a way the turning point, and then it kind of get more and more grandiose from there. This was still sort of in that period between when they were kind of a straightforward Halloween-esque power metal band going towards a kind of more bombastic approach. But no, very, very good album.
And I know we're not talking about quality here necessarily, we're talking about importance to us, but when we saw them just a couple of months back, the songs on this album really stood out, I thought.
Absolutely. I mean, they're still going, it shows something that they're still playing songs from this and it's still working really well. And I'll add as a final amendment that the artwork is just kick-ass as well.
Well, they're very much out of the Iced Earth, Iron Maiden school of fantasy-esque. In fact, for a long time, Blind Guardian was the only screensaver I ever had on the PC. In fact,
the PC I record this on still has the Bard song artwork as its screensaver. And I think the one I got downstairs is Somewhere in Time. So they know a good image when it comes.